Hello, everybody. It's Saturday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm Chris Weuve, and this is Starfleet Tactical. And this is going to be a question and answer show, which basically means I had a very busy week. And also, Alec said he was going to be here, but of course, frequently, Alec, since he does feline and canine rescue, he frequently gets called away. And he is not one who lives by his watch. He is not one who lives by the clock. So he may come screeching in at some point. But in any event, I'm here. So think of questions. And while you're doing that, first of all, so yeah, I already answered that. The answer is 42. Next question. So this is the Keep Calm and Set SCE to Aux t-shirt. Which I just love. It's an absolutely fantastic t-shirt. And of course, there's a story behind it. Those of you will recognize this as being a t-shirt that's a reference to Apollo 12 when they were heading up to orbit. They got hit by lightning, and it caused the primary electrical system to not work properly, and they got word from, things were just all over the place. They got word from Mission Control, the electrician guy, John, I can't remember his name. He's the original steely-eyed missile man. He's the guy who played a very prominent role in Apollo 13 in helping reset all the doing the startup routine when they brought the command module back to life. John Aaron. He was later ran the Kennedy Space Center or the Marshall Space Center or something like that. In any event, John Aaron says, tell them to set SCE to aux. They pass the message up. The capsule controller goes, what are you talking about? He goes, just say it. Just say it. Pass the message up. The astronauts up there go, 2 out of the 3 of them go like, what? What the hell is that? SCE to aux? I have no idea what that is. And Alan Bean goes, I know. Click. And saved the mission. Good for him. So yeah, Bob said, what year will season 7 of The Expanse be made? I have absolutely no idea. I mean, let me be more specific. Ask a question that I could possibly give you some insight on. I have no insight on season 7 of The Expanse. What I do have insight on, though, is what my schedule is going to be. So let me do a quick thing. And I just realized I did not actually upload my slide. So let me do that real quick. There we go. Upload the slide. Bring you up. So this is just the standard schedule slide. So let's go ahead and do the admin thing. By the way, Alex says his computer is booting. He said cats needed attention and some other stuff going on. So totally and completely get it. Okay, so next week, no show. Next week, I am going to spend the day playing some sort of naval miniatures game that my friend Sean Barnett is setting up because I've got a friend coming into town. And so there's a group of us going to get together and we're going to play naval miniatures. Also this coming week, I'm having dinner with my friend Brian McHugh, who's coming into town, and my friend Sean Barnett and Mike Markowitz. And then also Will O'Neill, who you may remember back from the Literal Combat Ship episodes, Will O'Neill. Hello, Alec. I'm just doing the admin. Sorry. That's okay. That's okay. Let me buzz through the admin slide and then we'll talk. So my buddy Brian McHugh's coming in town, and we're getting together with Will O'Neill, who you may remember from the Littoral Combat Ship episodes, that he wrote a very good paper and had a lot of very interesting things to say about it. He used to be a VP at the Center for Naval Analysis, and he's long retired. And he lives in the house that the previous owner of the house was Caleb Lanning, the nephew of Harris Lanning, the Naval War College president, who I've also done a couple of shows about. He's the one who had the tactics manual. So no show next week. The rest of May, the next 3 weekends in May, 9, 16, 23, on those Saturdays, I'll probably do a show. There's no reason to think I'm not going to do a show. And then on the 30th of May, no show, because I will be at Wonderfest, hanging out with Rights of Blood. And then in June, it's probably yes. There's some potential things on the horizon that might happen in June, might happen in July. There's probably some point in there I'm probably going to be off for 2 or 3 weeks, but we'll figure that out. I don't know yet. So, Alec,
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Oh yeah, I'm okay. It's been
How are the cats?
Today was like mental health day. I just realized I had run out of gas and I just did absolutely nothing of value today, other than walking. I put in about 13,000 steps today. So I took one of the neighbor's dogs for a long walk. I did some walking morning and evening, and that was it. But other than that, watched a lot of YouTube and did a bunch of shopping, make sure we had everything we needed in the house. That was it. So it was a worthless day. And part of that is because we've been going a mile a minute trying to get episode 4 out.
Yeah, you told me it was coming.
The Gathering Storm, yes, the sequel to Prelude to Axanar. And I don't want to go into everything. It would take me a half hour to talk about everything that's going on. The good news is the episode's finished. We're just waiting for the output from being our color correction. We had a bunch of technical issues around that, and not with the color per se, but with transferring these huge files, because we shot everything with Red camera, so it got to be, the guys really didn't have the process that we are going to have for the next episode. So that was a little daunting. However, all resolved. The episode's amazing. I know I've shared it with you. And everyone is going to be so freaking fired up. I'm sure they're going to be really excited. So anyway, but it's been a lot of work.
Yeah, and this is the one where, if I remember correctly, there's somebody who appears that
there's two guys that there's two. Well, there's a few new actors. We have a total of, I think, 19 actors total in these 2 episodes.
Wow.
And 2 of whom you've never seen, many of whom you've never seen before. 2 of whom are going to blow everyone away.
You know what I've always said? I never thought I'd hear the words "I'll be back" in an Axanar movie.
And
so if it's not painfully apparent, that's a total and complete red herring, everybody.
Yes, yeah. Arnold was not available, unfortunately, although he said he'd love to be in it. I will say we did try and get Danny Trejo to be the Klingon lead. The Klingon lead is named Moreau. He's the mentor of Korn, Richard Hatch's character. So he's very old, right? And I wanted Danny Trejo because he looks like 30 years older than he is, and but his agent wouldn't play ball, and so the actor we wound up with, so technically at this point our second choice was amazing. So amazing. And it was funny because when it went to color correction, Dana Wagner, who does all the compositing of the VFX for us, he did an amazing job, especially on Moreau, this Klingon, the Klingon Thought Admiral, which is a John Ford reference to The Final Reflection. But anyway, Dana had done such an amazing job, and when it went to color, it came back, and Bing had taken all the color out of it. I was like, "What did you do?" And it was like the one thing that I disagreed with Bing's color on. And he's like, "Oh, well, I thought it looked a little too bright in video." I was like, "I don't give a shit. Put it back."
There's
amazing. So
there's
no problem. Bing's great, but
there's a long history in Star Trek of somebody correcting the color, right? Remember the Orion slave girl story?
No, what was she supposed to be?
When
blue?
they did the pilot and the Orion slave girl would end up, when they were making the film, the people actually producing the film would look at it and go, "Oh my God, this woman's green. We got to fix that." And they kept fixing it.
Oh my God.
And it's like, what the hell is going on? So they'd have to make her more green and reshoot it. And finally they went and said, "What's going on here? We keep sending you this green woman and she keeps coming back with normal skin tones." And they said, "Oh yeah, we've been fixing that." No, she's supposed to be green. I want to say that story's in Making of Star Trek.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Really old school. So now was Dana like, did he do all this? Is this skill sets that he picked up working on Axanar?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, because a year and a half ago, we were having so in 2020, we're in 2026. So in 2024, a company in the UK had volunteered to do all the compositing. They jerked us around for 9 months and then said, "Nah, we can't do it." Motherfuckers. So I said, okay, so we got 2 professionals, one of whom didn't get along with Dana. The second one was a super sweet guy, but what he was doing was not what we wanted. And Dana was like, "All right, give me some time. I'm going to figure this out." And Dana taught himself how to composite using DaVinci Resolve, which is one of the 3 top editing programs. And he's done an amazing job. And so it's all worked out amazing. So that's all good. And of course, Mark Edward Lewis is our editor, and Bing Bailey, who's been with me since the beginning, and Bing Bailey, who's been with me since the beginning, meaning like 2013. Bing Bailey was our colorist on Prelude, who's just awesome. So yeah, and so I had to post a video, which y'all may have seen, which was about there is no episode 1 and 2. I had to post a video because people keep, it's been so long, people don't realize that Prelude is episode 3. And everyone's like, "Well, where's episodes 1 and 2? And there is no 1 and 2. It's kind of like Star Wars, right? A New Hope was episode 4. There was no 1, 2, and 3. It's the same thing. But I have to tell people because they don't realize it. And so many people are like, "Well, where are all the episodes?" There are not all the episodes. There's Prelude. So I'm kind of reframing it now, and I'm referring it more towards the sequel to Prelude to Axanar.
Okay.
That way people are like, "Oh, the sequel's out," rather than episode 4. Too much information. And it's really episode 4 in continuity, right? It's not really episode 4. It's episode 4 in the world of Axanar. And the CBS lawyers are being assholes again, and they don't want us to release it. And so I'm going straight to Paramount, and I'm just basically saying, we're releasing it. Now you may take it off of YouTube, but I'm going to give a free download to everyone who wants it, and I'm going to ask them all to post it themselves. So, CBS, considering CBS got, learn the dark side of the Streisand effect with Stephen Colbert and trying to censor him, my attitude is like, try and censor me. I'm just going to give everyone the Google Drive link and let everyone download it. And, I got 20,000 people on our mailing list. They'll all get a free download. And let them, and I'm going to tell everyone, post it everywhere,
Well, I'm definitely, as somebody who was a backer. So, yeah, I mean, I always point out to people that I was a backer before I ended up actually doing this show.
Yeah. So, well, it's been so long. I mean, we did our first Kickstarter Prelude was 2014, right? Yeah. And that was March of 2014. And then in July of 2014, we did the Kickstarter for Axanar. And this is one half of what we're delivering for that Kickstarter. So obviously really excited about it.
And being sued twice, suing somebody else once, COVID. I mean, I don't think that the rest of the world understands. And you did that video recently, and I put this in as a comment that I don't think the rest of the world understands that every time something like that happens, it's a reset, because you end up having to come to, full stop while the legal issue is resolved or the health issue is resolved. And then, half your volunteers have drifted away.
Yeah.
You got to recrew the ship every time.
Well, yeah. And, it's also made us better in that
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Absolutely. It is absolutely very Nietzschean. And, when we had the disastrous 2019 shoot with that hack Paul Jenkins, the one we won the lawsuit against, it was such a letdown because we had such high hopes for that shoot. And basically, after that shoot, we spent $60,000 on that shoot, $64,000, I think. And donors donated for it. I mean, it was a great event. And we had like 100 volunteers show up, and we didn't have enough work for them to do, and when we got the footage from that shoot, it just really, Jonathan Lane was the one who saw all the footage and was like, yeah, Alec, you're not going to be happy with this. I was like, oh, fuck, what? And then I looked, and yeah, it's just, it was rough. But firing him and regrouping that November for basically our second Axonar shoot, third if you count the Vulcan scene, but basically we're resetting then in November. This is during COVID. November. It's the tail end of COVID. It's 2021 at this point, right? November 2021.
Okay.
Mark Edward Lewis was there, running, as the camera director. Jeff Fagan, who had been a camera operator in the year, in 2019, was now our DP. And Ted Brunetti was our director. And that shoot, we had 3 actors. We had J.G. Hertzler, we had Raj Kala playing Commodore Singh, and we had Robert who's DeVille, the pilot. And the shoot went perfect. And after that shoot, every other shoot, because we had 3 more shoots after that, every other shoot had the same crew. And we had different camera operators sometimes, but basically those 3, Jim Ross, our gaffer, same sound crew, same, still had obviously me and Crystal there. So it was, after that, we just, we honed in and we had a process and we had great people. And, and the story of, and I think that's the story. And that's what I'm really excited about is, now there's this documentary film crew making a documentary about Axonar. And they're to tell, this is the story they're telling. And it's a story of, yes, it's a story of perseverance, but it's a story of great people who refused to let this thing die. And it would have been very easy for me to walk away after that lawsuit and say, oh, sorry, everyone, CBS sued us into oblivion, ta-ta, and not spend, $500,000 of my own money over the next 10 years. But we didn't. We did it. And this episode is going to be the testament to that. And the next episode is just going to be insane. So, question, Scott S. Patrick Ross, Alec, what is Garth's going to warp line? That's a really good question. And I've thought about that, and I don't know the answer to the question. We will figure it out, but I don't know the answer to it because it's interesting when you think about that. Like, let's face it, Michelle Burnham's full of shit. Let's fly. Oh, that's just such fucking soft sell bullshit. And then I do, I like Pike is hit it, right? I like that, but that's very Pike. Like Garth would be a lot more formal. Garth's pretty buttoned up, He's pretty a pretty sincere, deep thinker. So I don't know what he'd say, he'd probably be a lot closer to Picard than he would be to
there's probably a line in the manual that tells them what they're supposed to say.
Probably. Yeah. Probably engage sounds like the most logical thing for a captain to say, right? Warp 5, engage. Boom.
So I know that submarines use a very specific language. Surface ships do too, but the submariners, the most anal retentive military community I've ever met is submariners, because
I bet.
And
no room for error.
And this is not a criticism; it is simply an observation. And I'd be anal retentive too if I had 130 people that spent months within 90 seconds of dying.
Yeah, right.
Months. But like one of the things they do when a new submarine comes online, they will the people that write the manual also write all the standard phrases that they use. The Navy refers to standard phrases like that as the litany. And the idea is you always say things the same way.
That makes sense.
So like, for instance, a torpedo is something that the other guy has shot at you.
Oh, okay.
You don't shoot torpedoes. You shoot units.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you'll say unit is tracking. And that means your torpedo has the target and is tracking the target. But if you say torpedo, that's what's coming in. And this is one of the things that happens, like when American submariners go over and take the Perisher course, the very famous Royal Navy submarine course, which is like the best, probably the hardest submarine course in the world. When they send Americans over to take the course, the Brits have an entirely different litany.
I bet.
They have an entirely different terminology, and you do it their way, not your way. And so that's one of the things that you can get dinged on, is if you're not using the proper terminology. Surface ships have similar things. It's also you hear it everyday life, like at some point each day, somebody will come on the 1MC, which is the ship-wide intercom, and they will say, "Sweepers, man your brooms. Give the ship a clean sweep fore and aft. Sweep, blah, blah, blah." They go and they list all the things in a very specific order. It is a memorized speech, and then it concludes with "Sweepers, man your brooms."
Wow.
And you hear it the entire. I mean, it's always the same.
Totally change the subject. Do you follow? I assume you follow Cappy's Army on YouTube now.
I hit probably about 50% of them, maybe 75%.
He had a good one today that I saw about the new grenade launcher.
I haven't watched that one yet. It's in the queue.
Yeah, but he also reveals that he's a big hardcore Warhammer fan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, because he refers to it as his bolter, and he has a purity seal on it. It's so funny.
It's about the right size for a bolter.
And then he fires it, and he's so excited. He goes for the Emperor, and it's really funny. He's so awesome.
So
but the grenade launcher is insane. It is insane. And the big thing is it can shoot like 500 yards on a flat trajectory, not arc. And they say the beauty of that is so you can put it through a window very accurately at 300, 400 yards. Whereas with all the old grenade launchers, you're finding yeah. You're arcing it. Anyway, that was really good, and it's been really fun. It's been really interesting. It's amazing. Here we are at war with Iran, stupid as that is, and all the interesting shit is coming out of Ukraine. Still, it's still shit that's coming. And also, I just saw an interesting video which I knew nothing about, which is the country that's just to the southwest of Ukraine, which is Estonia. No,
So one of the stands.
Oh, who? No, let's see. Let me just look. Ukraine map. Let me just look here. Moldova.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds right.
I guess there is a territory between Moldova and Ukraine that is occupied by the Russians.
Tunisia or something like
Something
that?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Moldova basically said today, yeah, you guys, you're quarantined. You're not going anywhere, which is very provocative. But what's happening with Ukraine? I mean, it's like, there are new drones coming out of Ukraine faster than new models of ChatGPT come out of OpenAI. I mean, it's like, look at this new drone they just came out with, and you're like, holy shit! It's like it's insane. Yeah, thank you, Olive Drab. I really love watching that. I also want to put a plug in. If you haven't seen the World War III series that's on,
I've got it queued up. I just need to watch it.
It's a lot of fun.
Every day I go into YouTube and I queue up 30 hours worth of stuff.
I know. My save
obviously.
My save list is so damn long. So yeah. So anyway, I watch. All I do is watch YouTube. That is like my latest fetish is watches. I'm just, the algorithm knows that I'm just totally into interesting watches and.
I would love. I was having a watch conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, "I've never met." So I wear an Apple Watch.
Yeah, so do I.
And the reason I wear an Apple Watch is that there's only 2 watches out there that have a AFib detector, and the other one is the Fitbit Sense, and it's not nearly as good as the Apple Watch. So the only reason I wear the Apple Watch is because I've had 2 cardiac ablations, and I want to be able to say something weird's going on. Is it AFib? Push the button, hold the thing, wait 30 seconds, and it tells me whether I'm having AFib.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
So I mean, I spent like $600 on one feature.
Wow.
Other than that, I mean, the watch I was wearing before that is just like a $50 Timex.
Yeah.
And I've always said, I'm willing to spend $800 on a watch. Give me a watch that's worth the $800.
Well, the interesting thing about the watch market is that I've learned is that there's a big collector's aspect to it.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. And so I've learned all about all the different brands and everything. And there's this huge, the interesting part of the market is the micro brands. So, the only interesting thing about all the big ones you've heard of is where is the business end of things. Like, it's not what Rolex comes out with next week. No one really, it's not going to shake the world. What's more interesting that I found interesting is like, everyone basically says, yeah, Rolex, you're paying, 80% of that price is you're paying for the name,
Yeah.
Because here it is, a matter of fact, and then, I mean, there are watches that are $400,000. These companies, these Swiss companies, they only make 100 of them and they're $400,000 a piece. And you're like, who the hell wears a $400,000 watch? It's insane. But what's real interesting is the low end of the market and everything under $1,000. There's so many amazing watches. And I've actually finally, I broke down and bought a watch. There was a beautiful watch that was fully engraved. The case and was fully engraved. And I've been looking at one. I saw one in one of the magazines I get. It was a Western theme. And anyway, the engraving was like $20,000. It was a Rolex that was engraved, but like and I found the artist who does it, and he charges somewhere between $5,000 and $20,000 to engrave a watch. And when I say engrave, I should show you a photo of it. I mean, it's like it's like the pattern on a dollar bill, huh?
He puts a picture on it.
Not a picture, does more design element. I'll put out a photo.
Roger.
Anyway, so I found an Italian company that that does a good, really nice job, and it was $800 for theirs. I was like, okay, I can afford $800. So I'm paying for it over like 6 months. And that's the only way I can justify it, because I can't justify spending $800 on a watch, but I can justify spending like $125 a month on it. But that's it. That's it. So that's it. Watches is one of my interests. Politics obviously is one of my interests, and war in Ukraine is one of them. I'm watching an interesting video now about J.J. Abrams moving Bad Robot, closing his L.A. office and moving to New York, and that we don't realize. Really, J.J. Abrams has been pretty successful in Hollywood. It's kind of interesting. He was one of the co-writers on Armageddon.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, my favorite guilty pleasure movie. And so he wrote Regarding Henry, if you remember that, Harrison Ford.
Did you know that Armageddon's required watching at NASA?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
They make new hires watch it and they say, make a list of how many errors you see.
Interesting.
And the answer is usually like in the 80s.
Really? I'd love to know what those are. I'd love to know what those are. That is Armageddon it's my favorite guilty pleasure movie. It's also my one and only Michael Bay movie that I just adore. I think that movie is Michael Bay at his best. When it's that whole music video, moving the camera constantly, bright colors, lots of close-ups. There's a lot of interesting movie making techniques in that, along with just an amazing integration of humor into a pretty serious subject for a movie. I really like it. I really like Armageddon, and like Deep Impact too.
My pleasure movie is Wing Commander.
Oh yeah, yes. You and I have talked about that many times.
There's nothing wrong with the plot, the general plot, but the execution is kind of a shit show. But there's a really good movie.
It is
struggling to get out.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
The part that makes it most frustrating is they had everything they needed to make a really good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to basically tone Matthew Lillard down, but I'm confident that Matthew Lillard was, 9 times out of 10, as you well know, 9 times out of 10, when you hate the actor, you should be really hating the director.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Matthew Lillard's in the new Daredevil Born Again. And he's in season 2. He plays the CIA guy. I love Matthew Lillard. He's really an interesting actor.
Yeah.
Of course, he's just so amazing in Hackers. He was just so brilliant in that movie. And that's
I've ever seen that movie.
You've never seen Hackers?
I don't think
Angelina Jolie as basically when she was basically 18, 19, 20 years old, and Johnny Lee Miller, and oh my God, that is just talk about a guilty pleasure. Oh my God, Hackers is amazing. You got to go watch Hackers. That movie is just so much fun. It's insane.
I do. I need to watch a lot of stuff. Have you ever seen a movie called The Deadly Spawn?
No. It might sound familiar. So
The Deadly Spawn was something that was shot at 16 millimeter. The producer was Tim Hildebrandt of the Brothers Hildebrandt.
Really?
And the star of the movie was Tim's 16-year-old son, Charles, who is the guy who got the Avalon Hill Dune war game back in print. He's an IP lawyer in the DC area. And the reason I won't be doing a show next Saturday is I'll be playing a game with him, most likely, because I think he's going to be there. But I've known him for a while and had no idea that he started this movie. And he said, this is a movie shot on 16 millimeter. It's been in print almost constantly since it came out in the 1980s, and it's been released in 4K.
Oh my God.
And he can't figure out why. Nobody who was in the movie can figure out why they did that. And I said, so why does this movie have legs? And he said, the only thing I can think of is that it's got the element of, they spent like $50,000 on the movie, and they spent $48,000 of that on the special effects. And so the special effects are way better than you would expect for this movie. So it's like a really bad movie, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that was actually a decent special effect. What happened? Where'd that come from?
That's funny. Yeah, I wanted to say, getting back to Wing Commander.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Freddie Prinze Jr. I find him out of place in that movie. I just thought that was bad casting, because I like everyone. The guys that they have in that movie, the three main adults, obviously Jürgen Prochnow is in there, and then that French actor who's just always fucking brilliant, whatever he does.
The Turkish French actor.
Is that, and then the guy who played Hercule Poirot on TV. Yeah, all three of those guys are just like world-class actors.
And David Warner.
4 guys.
Yeah.
4 guys. So like those 4 guys, how do you get all 4 of those guys in one movie? And that movie sucks. It's just like there's something wrong there.
Well, Freddie Prinze made the comment that the script he agreed to was not the script that they shot.
Oh, okay.
So he was kind of disappointed in that.
But I agree with you. But that movie is close. It's a lot closer than like Star Trek Nemesis, which I always say you'd have to edit out a half hour out of Star Trek Nemesis at least, and then it's a good movie. I actually think Star Trek Nemesis is probably a good 1-hour episode, of Star Trek once you edited out all the bullshit in that movie. Because the same thing, it's like, I like the idea, and the stuff between Picard and Shinzon is pretty good, and the battle is really, really awesome. But there's a lot of shit in that movie that, the whole B4 subplot and just,
yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that. The movies just never drew me, and I use the what I call the yesterday's Enterprise rule. When I look at a Star Trek movie is on, it's like, am I going to watch this movie? And I ask myself the question: would I rather watch this movie, or would I rather watch yesterday's Enterprise twice? And if the answer is I'd rather just watch yesterday's Enterprise twice, I don't watch the movie.
Yeah. Someone is interesting. Yes, today I read. Maybe it was on Reddit. Someone was saying, if you only had one episode of Star Trek to show someone to convince them to watch Star Trek, what episode would it be? And people were talking about, well, would it be? Some people were like, oh, Darmok or Inner Light, or
those are the two that first come to my mind.
Yeah, or City on the Edge of Forever.
The problem with both Darmok and Inner Light is that it's about a show called Picard as opposed to a show called Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the crew is sort of
that is my point. Yes, and that was my point as well. Someone mentioned Balance of Terror, which I was like, yes, there's a great one, right? I think I would say Doomsday Machine, Balance of Terror, City on the Edge of Forever again. Yes, it's a great time travel. It's one of the best Star Trek episodes, but not for you trying to convince someone that they need to watch Star Trek.
Doomsday Machine is pretty darn close.
Oh fuck, it's my favorite episode.
William Wyndon is just fantastic.
That episode is the perfect Star Trek episode.
Yeah. Do you think I don't know that?
Yeah, he's so fucking good in that. He's so fucking good. And the way he plays Captain Queeg on the Enterprise, is just I love it. So anyway, I think that's an interesting question. What episode? Yeah, what episode of Star Trek, if you had one episode to convince someone that they needed to watch Star Trek, what one episode would you show them? And I think you have to step up, like you said really well. It's, Inner Lights may be the best Next Generation episode, but is it the best Star Trek episode? Right.
It's the best episode that captures the spirit of Star Trek, but it does it by being this little bottled episode.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem, is that it's a bottled.
And Inner Light shows you why Star Trek is different than Star Wars.
Yeah.
You'll never have a Star Wars episode like Inner Light.
Have we talked about the, somebody asked the question on like Reddit one time, and I forget which board it was on. Somebody asked the question, what would Star Trek have been if Patrick Stewart had not left after the first season and he had stayed for the entire run of the show? And everybody ran with it, right? So, I mean, the question itself is a counterfactual, and everybody ran with it and gave these fantastic episodes. And one of the ones talked about and everybody quickly settled on Riker got promoted to be the captain of the Enterprise. And they talked about the episode The Inner Light with Riker instead of Picard, and about how, you wouldn't have got that scene at the end where Riker picks up the pipe, the flute, and puts the flute down and picks up the trombone and plays it on the trombone instead, indicating that he's, incorporating the memories into his own personality, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, people just riffed on it for like a couple of pages of stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it was one of those I looked at and I just went, yeah, that's why I like Star Trek fans.
Yeah. and I think finally, listen, I love Star Wars just as much as maybe not as much as I like Star Trek, but I love Star Wars too. And that's where Andor finally elevated to Star Trek level science fiction storytelling, because it got out of science fantasy and it moved into science fiction. Whereas much of Star Wars is just science fantasy.
The problem I always had with Star Wars, I mean, there's a bunch of problems with Star Wars. I mean, I was 12 when Star Wars came out, right? I was 12 when Star Wars came out. I was 12 when Episode 7 came out. It was really kind of amazing. A friend of mine said I was 12 again, and I said, yeah, that's exactly right. I was 12 again too when I watched Episode 7. 7 or 5, 6, yeah, 7.
Force Awakens.
Yeah, but the thing that drives, one of the things that just drives me nuts about Star Wars, and the last movie was especially bad about this, is that galaxy small. I mean, this is a galaxy where you go across the galaxy to a place that you've never been before. You never even heard of this planet until like a day ago. You go to this planet and you walk into a random bar and there's your college roommate. It's the smallest universe ever. And they just do stuff like that all the time. And it's like no, it should be big.
Yeah, it should be vast.
It should be big. And the last movie with everything, it's like, oh, if you hold the knife up, it's really good that somebody made a knife that when you hold it up while standing in this particular spot and you hold the knife up, it just happens to show you what you need to advance the plot to the next thing. What? Who said I need a knife and here's what it needs to be able to do?
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's the entire thing is like that, and just it drove me nuts, and it kept I would be cruising along, and all of a sudden I drop out. It's like I'm trying to suspend my disbelief. I'm doing everything that I, as a moviegoer, I'm upholding my end of the bargain. You guys need to quit kicking me out of hyperspace.
Yeah, right. And the prequels keep looking better and better. because at least with the prequels, the one thing you can say about the prequels is they told the story that needed to be told. It may have been clunky at times, and the acting or the writing may have been bad at times, but it told the story that needed to be told. George was worried about getting from A to B to C. And he did, and he got us there. And
somebody, and I want to say it wasn't Ryan Reynolds, some Hollywood actor, as a personal project. I think on the lines of, I need to teach myself how to be an editor, re-edited the first 3 movies down to 1 hour and 15-minute long movie, or 115-minute long movie.
Wow. And
did it by, there were major subplots that got left on the cutting room floor, like Jar Jar Binks does not put in an appearance. And there's other subplots that got put on the floor. And supposedly it's really good. And the only way that you can see it is you have to be a friend of this guy.
Oh, wow.
Because he obviously can't distribute it. And so it's
although there's a bunch of fan edits out there, like I was just reading about the one that restores the original, the original trilogy.
Somewhere I've got episode 1.1, which Lucas made him pull it down.
Yeah. So
but on some hard drive I've got it.
Well, was there something specific we were going to talk about, or we were just
going to talk about a couple of things? We were going to talk about now that we're 47 minutes in. We were going to talk about, you had suggested talking about the battleship, I think. And I'm certainly willing to talk about that, because normally I don't talk about like real world day job stuff. I only talk about science fiction, but the battleship counts.
Well, I basically, if you in the audience have not followed, basically this week, Donald Trump fired the Navy secretary.
Yeah.
In the middle of a war, where the Navy is playing probably the biggest part.
That is not as big a deal as it sounds.
Okay.
And the reason why is he's not in the chain of command.
That's true.
So he is an admin function. His job is to buy the Navy. His job isn't to run the Navy. He has absolutely nothing to do with operations. His job is to make sure that 20 years from now there's a Navy.
Gotcha. And ostensibly the major reason he got fired was because he didn't get along with Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth was jealous of the fact that this guy had Donald Trump on speed dial on his cell phone, and he didn't want the guy talking directly to Trump. So anyway,
and he was competent.
He was competent. Is that what you're saying?
I think he was competent. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean he was a good Secretary of the Navy, because he had zero Navy experience.
Right.
Going in, but he's not the first guy.
Well, listen, he
in like that.
Yeah, listen. Probably of all the billionaires that Trump has put in office, and he is one of the less incompetent ones.
He's not Howard Lutnick.
Yeah, I was just going to say Lutnick or Steve Wyckoff
or Besant.
Yeah, just some bozos. So, but Trump Trump in his narcissistic glory decided that he was going to tell the Navy to build a new class of battleship that would be the biggest, best battleship in the world.
Yeah,
it says so, and he wanted it done and he wanted the ship launched by 2028, because that's the end of his presence. And he knows if it goes any longer, he won't get done. And this guy, the Navy Secretary, Phelan, maybe he was an idiot to promote this idea in the first place. I mean, he may have basically dug his own grave by actually telling Trump, sure, we could do this. Any idiot, probably any idiot ensign can tell you it probably takes 8 to 10 years to get that ship launched. If there was space in our shipyards, which my understanding is there is no space because we don't have many shipyards left.
Well, the other issue is that's a really big ship.
Yeah, it's a huge ship.
So it has to be a military shipyard, because the Navy construction standards are different. So you can't just go into any shipyard to do it. There's only a handful of them, and they're basically the only shipyards that can do it are the shipyards that can handle building an aircraft carrier or an amphib.
Sure.
Guess what? They're busy.
Yeah, they're exactly. And also, I will say, I do watch Ward Carroll at all.
Yes.
The Ward had an episode on when this was announced, and I was a little disappointed in the lack of critical analysis of do we need a big battleship? And it's like, no, we don't need a big battleship because it's just a big target. That right now, all our aircraft carriers are big targets. We spend the rest of the Navy's job is to protect the aircraft carriers, it seems.
Yeah, and the thing is, aircraft carriers give you a capability, and in order to get that capability, you really kind of have to have something that looks like an aircraft carrier, right? Because it's got to have a runway, and it's got to be able to move through the water fast, and it's got to be relatively big to be a stable platform, and the flight deck has to be relatively high off the water to get out of the turbulent air near the bottom of near the ocean surface. And everything about that says you need to make the aircraft carrier big. So you build the thing that you need, and oh, look, it's ginormous. I once listened to a bunch of naval officers have a conversation about whether hugiantic or ginormous was bigger. They were all like lieutenant commanders and stuff, and commanders. And so it's going to end up being ginormous. And so you end up with this, okay, it's the high value unit, and I put the cordon of stuff around it to protect it. And okay, that actually kind of works. I don't understand what the Trump class battleship gets you. There's no reason it has to be like that.
No.
It's like, because you look at it and it's so let's take a look at what it's actually got on board. It's got 128 VLS cells. That's about what a Ticonderoga class cruiser has. Now, a Ticonderoga has 120. The only reason it has 120 is that when they built the Tycos in each of those missile farms, fore and aft, 4 of the slots were taken up by a crane that they could use to move missiles around. Well, the Arleigh Burkes got rid of the crane because weapons were getting heavier. The crane was a maintenance hog, and the weapons were getting heavy enough that they said, we're not going to use the crane. Like, there were weapons you couldn't use the crane for. The crane wasn't rated for them. So they said, the crane's not worth it. We'll just pull into port because we were fighting the war on terror. Of course, we can just pull into port. It wasn't a ship designed to deal with the Houthis. It wasn't a ship designed to have to move stuff around. And the Navy had a proposal that they've since started testing called TRAM for reloading at sea. I remember seeing it back in the 1990s. The Port Hueneme people were somewhere in my storage unit. I've got all the handouts I got from Sea Air Space that year about how this reload at sea system would work that they're now trying to implement. So it's got about a cruiser's worth of VLS cells. Now they're also going to add conventional prompt strike, and okay, that's great. That missile's actually being tested, so that's not just vaporware. But I could build something that's the size of a Tyco that has a couple of conventional prompt strike silos. They're only going to put like 6 on the thing. I could add that. They're talking about rail guns and lasers and stuff like that. And, those weapons don't exist.
Right.
They need
in Trump's mind.
Yeah. The rail gun is a fantastic idea. And boy, I wish we could get it to work. Now, it looks like at some point somebody's going to say, but the Japanese have gotten it to work. Well, the Japanese got it to work by turning the power level way down, right? And so it's like all of these things. You can get it to work if you start degrading the capability, and you eventually get to the point where it's like, why are we doing this again? Is it still better than the alternative? And part of the problem they have is like, okay, so I'm going to shoot a projectile out I'm going to shoot a projectile at 100 miles. How do I target it? It's not like I'm going to be able to put a full-up seeker in it like a tomahawk can target itself. This projectile kind of needs to be aimed in pretty close to where it needs to go to begin with.
Yeah.
And so you add all that stuff up, and I look at this thing, and I actually did an analysis on one of the shows where I broke it down, and it's like, for the cost of this thing, I could get like 5 cruisers.
Right, exactly.
I have 5 cruisers.
Right, right, exactly.
And then I don't have to, I can spread it out. I don't have to put all my eggs in one basket, because this thing, if you give something that's the high value unit like that, you have to treat it like the high value unit. And so now you have to sort of lock other ships in support of it.
And what does it do differently than any other ship?
Yeah.
It's just redundant. And it's like, listen, form follows function. That's not the form that the function of what you're saying it does should take. It should take what you just said. It should be 5 cruisers, not 1 battleship. So,
and the funny thing about it is that they also made the decision it was going to be conventionally powered. And usually I'm the guy saying, okay, nuclear is cool. I'm a big fan of nuclear, but the problem with like nuclear cruisers and stuff is that plant is really complicated. It requires really expensive people, and it takes up a lot of room. In addition to the fact that it's really expensive to build and it's really expensive to decommission at the end, but it takes up a lot of room. And as a result, you end up with a smaller magazine. You end up with less capability, and it doesn't help you that much in terms of a battle group, because you've got airplanes in that battle group. And so airplanes, if you look at the graph of the amount of fuel used by everything in the battle group, 95% of the fuel or 90% of the fuel is used by the airplanes. And so, okay, like over the course of 2 months, I need 1 less tanker. Who cares, right? But this ship is actually big enough that it probably makes sense for it to be nuclear, because nuclear is better at the high end than it is at the low end. And that's why the all nuclear surface action group didn't work, is because when you try to put it in destroyers and cruisers, it doesn't shrink well. But this is a huge ship. Nuclear is probably the right answer for it. Nope, we're not going to do the nuclear. We're going to do conventional.
Gotcha. Right, they did do a nuclear destroyer, didn't they? The Baen Books.
They did a handful of nuclear cruisers. They did the USS Long Beach, which was actually a cruiser-sized cruiser. It was 17,000 tons. And then they did the California and Virginia. There was like 2 or 3 different classes of nuclear cruisers that were much smaller. They were like 10,000 tons, 11,000 tons. They were bigger than the Tychos, but they weren't like World War II cruiser size. And those are the ones that really, really suffered from the magazine hit.
I bet.
Because they're steam plants. And, and that's actually a really good reason to not use it in the pedophile class battleship, is that steam plants are just difficult. Steam plants leak. Steam plants are maintenance nightmares. And this is why at one point, if you were a naval officer, if you were a surface warfare officer, and you were trying to do a get well tour, so sometimes you get a bad fit rep. And the way that you recover from a bad fit rep is the Navy has a list of really, really sucky jobs. And if you take one of the sucky jobs and do a good job at it, then you get extra points, and it will negate the effects of your bad fit rep. And one of the sucky jobs was main propulsion assistant on Enterprise, the old one. And that's because main propulsion assistant is the guy who owns the parts of the propulsion plant that aren't nuclear. So he owns the steam pipes, and that was a shitty job.
Yeah,
it's a really, really complicated steam plant, and it was old. old, and was constantly leaking. So
yeah, Navy built 2 classes of nuclear cruisers. The California had 2 ships. The Virginia had 4 ships.
yeah, that sounds right.
These nuclear power cruisers were proved to be too costly to maintain because of the USSR's fall, and they would all be retired between 93 and 99. And there, in addition, there were Long Beach CGN 9, Truxton CGN 35, and Bainbridge DLGN 25. However, these were all one-off ships without being a proper class.
So DLG was destroyer leader back, and that was back in the day. At one point, they called those frigates. And it's funny, you see this very interesting echo of all this in the FASA role-playing game. It used to be that the US Navy, so frigate is a very interesting term, because frigate is a term that totally and completely left the naval lexicon in the age of sail. Actually, around the end of the 1800s, it left. At one point, there were some steam frigates, but they, as a general rule, they still had sails. But then when the dreadnought revolution happened, frigates just totally went away. And then people started calling ships frigates again. And the Brits called ships that were smaller than destroyers frigates, and the rest of the world followed that. We called ships that were bigger than destroyers frigates.
Really?
Yeah. And so before 1975, a frigate was a ship that was bigger than a destroyer, smaller than like a World War II size cruiser, and it was intended as being a destroyer leader.
Oh, interesting.
And then a couple of things happened. One was sometime around there, although not directly related to that, we don't have enough cruisers. We don't have enough cruisers. Well, we can solve that problem. So we reclassified all of our frigates, and the big ones became cruisers, and the small ones became destroyers. And at one point in there was something called a destroyer leader.
Gotcha.
And now I said you see an echo of this in the FASA role-playing game. In the Star Trek role-playing game, frigates are basically bigger than cruisers, and they're basically cruisers that carry troops also.
Huh.
And so you end up with this, frigate's a big ship. And, if you go back to the age of sail, frigates weren't as big as ships of the line by any stretch of the imagination. But of the non-ships of the line, they were the biggest of the non-ships of the line. And in some cases, like the United States Navy, we famously built frigates that were way bigger than the British frigates. But back then, you determined whether something was a frigate or not by how many gun decks it had.
Right. Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why at one point the most powerful ship in the world was classified as a frigate, because the Royal Navy looked at it. It was a steam frigate. They looked at it and said, well, it's only got one gun deck. That makes it a frigate. And so the most powerful ship in the world was a frigate. And then somebody went, that's insane. Let's stop doing that. And they just threw the book away and came up with a new classification system. So they threw away the classification system they'd been using for 400 years, 300, at least 300, and said, yeah, that doesn't work anymore. Let's do something else.
By the way, Keith Cedar, who's done our podcast with us for years, I sent him the link to episode 4.
Mm-hmm.
His comment back was absolutely magnificent! ! So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I only saw the rough cut, but I of course saw it in the best possible way, sitting in the captain's chair in the bridge.
Yeah, that's right. You saw an early rough cut.
Yeah, and
I'll send you the link to that.
And I wasn't even trying to sit in the captain's. I just happened to sit down, and then it became apparent, oh, this is the session where we're going to watch this. I'm not going to stand up.
Let me.
I think if I remember correctly, I offered to let you sit in the chair, and you said I sit in the chair all the time, or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Let me send you.
Yeah, I'll watch it later. So in any event, that's my take on the battleship. I don't think it's ever going to get made. There's no way that they could design it in the time period he wants, let alone build it.
Right.
And I heard, and I saw the contract. The Navy put out a request for proposals for the design. I think it was an RFP, but in any event, they put out the whatever it is saying, hey, we want to issue a contract for somebody to design this, and the contract was a 72-month contract, and that's fast for a ship.
72 months for what?
To design
finish it? To design it
before you ever bend metal.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fast.
And there is nothing on the books that looks like the thing. If he wants a ship that looks like that, there is nothing on the books that they can convert into that. The only thing of approximately that size that we have would be the San Antonio class LPD, which I think is a little bigger, but it's approximately in that size class. And that is not that ship by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, the Trump class battleship. And I love the fact that he's like, oh, well, I helped with the design. Oh, shut the fuck up. Go back to sleep, dementia, Don. I mean, It's just pathetic how he needs to put his name on everything. Which let's face it, it's all coming off on January 20th, 2029.
One can hope.
God.
I was trying to think if there's anything else.
By the way, here I'm just going to make a plug for some books.
Oh yeah, because we talked about, and I left my books in the other room. This
is one of the best books.
Joe Johnston.
Joe Johnston, that's right. Joe Johnston, the director of Rocketeer and Captain America: The First Avenger. He used to be an artist, and if you don't have this book, it is. I lived by this book when I was a kid. Loved it. I take it out because you said we're going to talk about the books. Here's the other one: Ships of the Starfleet. Everyone should have that, and it's two successor books:
Starfleet Prototype and the Akazi Perimeter Action Ship.
Yeah, there you go. There, get them on eBay, guys. I mean, I got these. These are my extra copies that I got on eBay, and you can get them cheap.
Yeah, I think Starfleet Prototype is actually a different company.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
It's a little bit different sized, and it doesn't have any of the same names associated with it, etc. And that was back in the day when everything was about remember, one of those organizations came up with the Belknap class strike cruiser.
Yeah.
Which had the nacelle struts connected at the bottom of the secondary hull, and the Ascension class dreadnought that was based upon that,
which I love. Yeah.
And I think a couple of those books have it. And there was that magazine, Starship Design. Remember the magazine?
Yeah, I have a copy of that too. Yep.
I was looking at that. Starship Design came out in 1984. That book is 42 years old.
Holy shit. Here's the Belknap.
Yep.
So, absolutely. It's some amazing work for, before the advent of computers and all of that.
It is. And there's all sorts of nifty things that somewhere in one of those books, not necessarily one of those, but writ large, there was some fan-produced thing that came out like right before Wrath of Khan. And it included the idea that photon torpedoes are not like a physical missile that are shot out of the photon torpedo tube, but that the photon torpedoes are a projectile that is formed by the torpedo tube.
Yeah, you mentioned this before.
And one of the shtick was, as a result of that, you ended up with things like this ship has torpedo tubes that shoot a more powerful torpedo, but it doesn't have the same range and stuff like that. It sounds very Starfleet Battles like, but it wasn't Starfleet Battles. It was something else.
I just posted the link there in the comments section. If anyone wants to go to eBay and look up the and get a copy. I mean, you can get a copy. They're like $12. There's $12 free shipping. How cool is that? So,
I know that for Ships of the Fleet, the revised edition, at one point you could buy that at Barnes and Noble.
Wow.
Because I bought the revised edition at Barnes and Noble.
Wow. Yeah, they've got all of them here. I'm looking now. They're all available online. So
and Cygnus X1 has all that stuff. I've noticed that a lot of the stuff at Cygnus X1 that used to be that you couldn't download a PDF of the complete document, it looks like you can now download a PDF of the complete document.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so there's a whole bunch of stuff there that I need to go through and sort through it all, because there's a few things where like I'm missing a PDF of this and I'm missing a PDF of that. And I'm one of those anal retentive completist type people that has to have everything. So I draw the line at buying the same product with different covers. That one actually doesn't work on me.
Interesting. There's the Ships and Aircraft of the United States Fleet. There's a series called that. Which is very
the Naval Institute puts those out. At one point, I was looking. This is a long time ago, back in the 90s. I was looking at this bookcase I had, and it had 3-foot wide shelves, and all the heavy books were on the bottom, and I had Conway's All the World's Navies, Ships and Aircraft of the US Fleet 1993 edition. I had several of Norman Friedman's illustrated design history for various ships of the US Navy. And I looked at this and I went, I bet that I have $1,000 worth of books on that shelf. I was wrong. It was $1,500 worth of books.
Oh my gosh. Now,
I didn't pay $1,500 for it because I was a Naval Institute member, so I got a lot of those at a discount. The 1993 Ships and Aircraft of the U.S. Fleet I bought in like 97, and so paid like half price for it. Ned Beach's, there was like 31 books on the shelf, or 32 books on the shelf, and 31 of them had pricing information. And like I bought Ned Beach's coffee table book, Keepers of the Sea, which is like a $70 book, and I got it for $15 because it still had the sticker on it. So I didn't pay $1,500 for it, but it was $1,500 worth of books. And at some point, when I get all that stuff out of storage, it's going to be right there.
Now, didn't you buy a house? Are you in the house you bought?
Yeah, it's a condo. It's a condo. So I have an entire top floor. It's just short of 2,000 square feet.
Oh, that's nice.
And I am over my garage right now because I have the top floor. So I have this room that extends over the garage. And so my car is directly below me. On the other side of the room is my neighbor's car. And she's the downstairs neighbor.
Gotcha. All right.
But yeah, so it's but I haven't fully moved in yet. Like most of the stuff that's on the shelves is supply type stuff. It's not library type stuff. And so part of what I'm going to try to do tomorrow is sort through there. I have a storeroom. One of the bedrooms is the storeroom. It's got lots and lots of shelves. And I need to like clear these shelves because these shelves need to have books the way God intended. And all the supply stuff can get put in bins underneath the beds and stuff like that. So, but oh well. Let's see. Let me see if there's any questions here that we should try to answer. Let's see. This is a good one. One Horse asked, how long do I think it took Starfleet to switch over from the original series ships to TMP designs after the refit Enterprise launched? I think in some ways that might be not quite the right question, because I'm not sure how much. My hypothesis is that there's a steady stream of refits going on all the time. Also, on top of that, the time of the motion picture era is a time of steadily increasing tensions with the Klingons. That's the Cold War, right? The Cold War had kind of started during the original series, but it was really kind of ramping up. And, there had been a war previously, right? And so it's really ramping up. And so Starfleet is taking its defense mission very seriously. And Starfleet also has a problem that the US Navy doesn't have, which is the US Navy doesn't have to worry about, 20 years from now, there's going to be a new ocean. We're going to have to patrol that too, right? But the Federation is expanding. So they're exploring the boundary, and they have to provide security for it. So I think Starfleet has this very unique problem where it's almost guaranteed that the Starfleet of today is bigger than the Starfleet of yesterday, and the Starfleet of tomorrow will be bigger than the Starfleet of today. And perhaps when things settled down with the Klingons, that went away. But during at least the motion picture era, I think they were cranking those ships out. And you can make an argument, I've made it on the show before, that the reason why we see so many Excelsiors and so many Mirandas is not just that those are the models that the model makers had, but I can tell an in-universe story about how those production lines stayed hot for a long period of time. And, I could see a situation where by the time next gen rolls around, they might still be producing Excelsiors. Now, is it your grandfather's Excelsior? No. They're producing Excelsiors, and they might be producing Excelsiors in the same way that the Navy's still producing Hornets. A Super Hornet and a Hornet are not the same airplane. And like a late block F-16 is not the same as the F-16 that came out in like 1976, 1977. They're just not comparable airplanes at all. They just look the same on the outside. So I think Starfleet just kept turning that crank for a long period of time. And I also think they ended up with one of the reasons why we don't see a whole lot of stuff from the Ambassador era is that I think they had so much stuff from before that they built a few things at the high end, but they just didn't have the numbers. Either that, or there's this huge fleet of ambassadors out with the blue wizards on the other side of Mordor. Like, have you ever noticed what's going on over there? I think if I wanted to write something in the Tolkien universe and not get sued by the Tolkien estate, the way to do it is tell the story of the blue wizards. They're on the other side dealing with all of Sauron's allies over there. And because it's Tolkien, there's 15 different names for everything. Well, it turns out there's 17 different names for it. I've invented some new ones that take place over there. And so nobody ever talks about Sauron. It's just the great enemy or something like that. I could do that.
Olive Drab says, I figured the new style nacelles were already in service before the Enterprise got them even. They actually, actually the Phase 2 TV a series had original series Enterprise had new motion picture style nacelles.
Yeah.
Which they show in, I know we showed it in the Star Trek Phase 2 fan film series that I when I was in that one. Let's see. We can.
I've been meaning to go and watch those. I haven't done that.
Because this is all Tobias Richter work. Let's see if
One Horse Shay said that the reason the ambassadors weren't in the Dominion Wars, the model got damaged before being scanned for the CGI battles. I can believe that. Since I'm sure that was a scratch build, it probably took somebody a while to do it.
Yeah, here you go. Here is, let's see. Can I, oh shit. Oh, so let me.
So I just scrolled by the discussion about Garth's going to warp line, and nobody said yeehaw bitches, but
here's let's see, I can share my screen, can I?
You should be able to. Oh yeah.
All right, so here I'll play it.
I like that a lot. If you're playing it, we're not getting sound. Which sometimes happens. Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2.
All right, there you go. And here is the, if anyone wants to see that whole episode, it's 9 minutes long. There is the link in the comment section.
Fantastic.
All right, well, it's way past my bedtime.
Yeah, it's kind of past mine too. Let me see if there's any real quick questions here that are. There was one that I thought was probably worth. I'm losing it now. Oh, do you think Garth became ambassador at large for the Republic of Izar after his honorable retirement?
I don't know. I don't. He doesn't hit me as an ambassador.
There's a couple of instances of. I mean, there's a book about Garth of Izar. That was a official Star Trek book, and I started reading it and did not really feel compelled to continue reading it. I think there's some other, like, there's games and stuff that have had background ideas for what ended up happening to him, but nobody seems to have come up with anything that I was particularly happy with.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
But you know what I would do? A guy that has the ability to shapeshift strikes me as being of something that Federation intelligence might be interested in. He might be somebody that they'd be interested in.
Yeah, I wrote about this. Yeah, I actually, so I outlined a story for, which is kind of takes place when we shot Origins, and which, there's a rough cut of it up that's not complete, but it's about Garth coming back to the Enterprise after, 6 months after the events of Whom Gods Destroy. And in it, I have, so I sketched out a story where the Enterprise is, taking Garth back to Earth, and they get diverted to handle this diplomatic mission, and which goes terribly wrong. And in it, Garth just really doesn't have a memory of anything that happened after the accident and going to Antos 4 and learning how to shapeshift and all of that. So his memory's kind of been wiped by the whole process, and so he doesn't know how to shapeshift.
Okay.
And in the story, the Kirk, Spock, and Garth are on this away mission and get in this situation where Garth basically has to remember in order to shapeshift, in order to get them the hell out of the tough situation. And and so he has to, so Spock mind melds with him to unlock his memories, but all the memories come back, including his betrayal of his crew and killing Marta and everything. And so this obviously enormous amount of trauma and PTSD that go with it. But yeah, so that's the story. I never wrote it, but I outlined it. So yeah, so I think there's, it's interesting. There's an interesting future for Garth after Axanar.
All right, let's see. There's one thing I want to share, if I can. There it is.
Yeah. So, and the story is, according to canon, there was an accident, and that left Garth injured, and because of it, he went. Yeah. He went. He was sent to Antos 4, where he learned cellular metamorphosis and was able to learn how to shapeshift, and that's what drove him crazy.
Yeah. When I put this slide together, I specifically worked to find a slide of Garth and Marta together for the obvious reason of she was in both shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Although I don't think that's Bruce Wayne as Batman, or I don't think that's Adam West as Batman. I think, if I remember.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that was from some movie he did.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, listen. Thanks for having me on.
It's time to declare victory.
Yep. Let's leave while the leaving's good.
So thank you very much for joining me on this show you talked me into doing so many, many years ago. This was episode 191.
Whoa. We're going to have a big 200th episode.
And as always, I am terribly honored that there are people that actually think that they should spend their Saturday night hanging out, listening to me and whoever's on the show with me talk about stuff. I think they're kind of crazy, but in a good kind of way. But I'm not going to tell them that, because maybe they'll stop doing that if I say that. So I'm not going to say that. So with that in mind, I think it's time to call it a night, and I'll see you not next week, but the week after. Bye, everybody.
Okay, y'all. Long and prosperous.